Education is a huge disaster zone in South Africa. 1 in 10 of our schools are fee-paying, public or private, and mostly those do pretty well. 1 in 9 of the remaining fee-free schools, the ones low-income people go to, get reasonable results. The other 8 out of 9 do really poorly. The upshot of this is that higher education is not the great level it should be in such an unequal society. And it's especially bad in computer science because students coming from a relatively poor background with little tech exposure tend to find the very concept totally unapproachable. So what can we do about this? If we look at education theory, one idea which is really important is self-efficacy. The idea of self-efficacy is that if you believe that you can do something, you'll put in the effort to work through the hard concepts. Whereas if you don't, you give up. In a very poor community where people live in something that looks like a trash heap with crumbling houses, no job prospects and so on, all of that goes to undermine self-esteem, so you have no basis for self-efficacy. So what other ideas in education work? Well, one is peer tutoring. If a university like mine, which is really close to townships and in theory ought to be able to make a huge impact, sends tutors into that situation, as has been done many times, you mystify education. You're not giving the students in that highly disadvantaged community a feeling that this is something they can do on their own. So you have this intervention. The tutors come in, marks go up, the intervention ends, you're back where you started. So how do we turn that all around? Well, peer tutoring is a very effective tactic which could apply in this scenario. The idea would be that you train up members of the classes, perhaps 10% of a school, in tutoring, and then you can have tutoring in small groups, 1 tutor per 10, which is quite a good ratio. And the big wins there are as you demystify education, because the people doing the tutoring are from the same community. The tutors themselves, of course, benefit from the extra skill they gain from tutoring others. And then the next trick is, how do you make this whole thing scale up even bigger? Well, if we look in recent years at things that have scaled up very big and very fast, things like the Arab Spring, Occupy Wall Street and so on, those have been driven by social media. And so that is a possibility here. But of course, in these communities, technology is scarce. So what we have to do is look for something to build on. In Grahamstown, for instance, we have a very active hip-hop community who do quite sophisticated things. They build their own computers out of parts because they can't afford to go shopping for them. But that means they have to really know how everything works inside. So one could use groups like that as a way of building awareness of what is possible within a relatively poor community with an added cool factor. So the final thing I want to add in is, in the not too distant past, software development followed a very rigid process known as the Waterfall Model, where each step was very precisely defined. But the problem was that when you got late into the development cycle, if you discovered something wasn't such a great idea, it was really expensive to undo it and redo it. So in more recent times, agile methods have become a whole lot more popular. And the idea there is that you work with very short feedback cycles where you try out ideas, test them, and revise them if they turn out not to work. So here we've got a bunch of ideas that put together some theories from education, some ways of getting these things potentially to become more accessible to a community that is not tech-aware, and combine that all with agile development, which would allow us to be very quick on our feet when we discovered what did or did not work. It seems worth a try. Let's make it go viral.